how extraordinarily lucky students are to grow up in a place like Thurrock. When we began the working group, I reflected on with colleagues the fact that when I started university, I could hop on the C2C line and I was in the city within 45 minutes, a world of education and employment, whereas the majority of my friends, several of which were from Yorkshire and the East Midlands, they had to commute down, completely uproot their lives and take on far more debt so they could sustain a life in the southern part of England. So if you're a student in Thurrock, you really do have the most tremendous opportunities. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything we could to guarantee that Thurrock students were were in a position to make the very most of these opportunities. Obviously I thank Councillor Lydiard and Councillor Snell who were on the working group with me, as well as the Youth Cabinet who made quite substantial contributions. I think we started off by saying we didn't agree with the government's Wolf report, which said it didn't see the virtue of work experience really pre-16. We felt that when you're in a position such as Thurrock, where you do have such ready access to the city, that putting across employability skills at the earliest age is just more the better. I think the number one concern we have with work experience really across the nation is it can be quite a patchy offer. Some schools in Thurrock do a tremendous job of making sure their students don't just have access to work experience and employability skills, but things that are genuinely relevant to them. But also you do have some quite shocking examples of where you essentially get a work experience placement where you make the tea for the guy who makes the coffee that doesn't really set the level of ambition that we want. Yes, it teaches work experience, but in terms of the gold standard that we would like, we didn't really think this was very sufficient. So we came up with a range of suggestions that all in all would hopefully just raise the bar of what work experience and pathways into employment could be. So first of all, publishing schools' work experience arrangements in the admissions criteria. We tell parents and students what a school will offer them as a prospective pupil in terms of extracurricular activities, sporting facilities, so on and so forth. But we don't do a huge amount of telling parents and prospective pupils, because that's what students are, they're prospective pupils, they're customers. We don't do a great job at telling them this is what a school will offer you in terms of work experience. That should be one of the criteria that students use to judge whether or not that school is right for them. Are they going to help them find that apprenticeship? Many apprenticeships which do lead to the jobs of the future, as some of our business partners told us. So we thought that was worthwhile. Making work experience part of the education awards, because you have to remember that the purpose of education is not the manufacturing of results, but the purpose of education is that final outcome, what you then do with those results. Some schools are doing a fantastic job to bridge that gap between education and employment, and I think it's important that we do recognise that formally and celebrate where schools are really getting it right. And also help students shape their work experience offer. We heard some really quite commendable examples of where the school, or indeed where at times the council, and especially the demographic services and children's services staff who support the youth cabinet, have helped the youth cabinet individuals go out and find a work experience placement that really makes sense for them and helps bring them slightly closer to the general career that they have in mind. We hope that these things in general will kick off a slightly larger conversation about the value of work experience and thinking about those pathways into employment. And I think it's also worth mentioning that instead of completing this report as part of the task and finish and just taking it back to my committee and having my committee recommend it go to the cabinet, before I even took it to my committee, I took it to the youth cabinet first. We presented it to the youth cabinet, had a very lively discussion. I'm very pleased to say it was quite enthusiastically supported, and that's why my committee is happy to recommend it to the cabinet this evening.
Thanks, Councillor Horden, and it's a really good report, and obviously one that I do work for a youth charity and sort of briefly mentioned in here, which is what I wanted to ask about. Is it you've you concentrated on the 11 to 16-year-olds, yet our youth, the work that we do with the young people goes up to age 25, and the work experience that we offer that works across other programmes up to the age of 25, and there's some excellent officers working in Thurrock Council that source the work placements. And I just wondered if you did any work around our partner agencies and who we work with in the council to ensure that, you know, we're getting the most out of social value, to make sure that they are working with us to provide both our school children and those on DOE, Prince's Trust and the other programmes, you know, the work experience that they should be, and apprenticeships and career opportunities with them, rather than just like the 11 to 16-year-old school children. I think it's important that we do, you know, look at what we're doing with the care leavers and those needs at the 16 to 25-year-olds as well.
Thank you, Lena. Yeah, absolutely. It's by no means exclusive to 11 to 16. The point I just wanted to make was the governance ward report. I think myself, councillor, the other councillors now all thought was not, we didn't agree with this conclusion that work experience is only beneficial post 16. Of course it is very beneficial post 16, but I didn't think that employability skills were mutually exclusive to that age range. So I think it's from 11 all the way up. You're absolutely right that post 16 is extremely important. So the parts where we're talking about celebrating, where schools and indeed charity groups get it right, that will still be a part of the education awards, as places like Palmer's College are now. The key part of making institutions, you know, compete about who's got the best offer for work experience, that will still fall within the parts we're talking about in terms of publishing work experience arrangements as part of the admissions criteria. So in sixth forms for those post 16 children, students, when those admissions criteria are going out, they will still get that information there, and institutions will have to compete about who's got the best offer. But you're certainly right, groups like Prince's Trust do a great job. The reason that I was more preoccupied with the school and college offer is because for a group like Prince's Trust, that sort of thing is their core activity and they're extremely good at it. Whereas for a school or a college, their core activity is obviously the day-to-day education of their pupils, and we felt that was the area that warranted, you know, more in-depth study, because a group like Prince's Trust is, you know, very au fait with what they're doing.